Emily Kahn was known as Google Girl, a rising tech star with a flawless routine until one quiet morning jog turned into a nightmare that shocked an entire city. Emily Kahn's day began like any other, a creature of habit. She followed the same early morning routine that gave her a sense of calm before the fast-paced life of coding and team meetings took over. At 5:45 a.m., her alarm buzzed softly, and she was already halfway into her running gear: black leggings, a loose-fit Google tee, and her signature neon green running shoes. Her smartwatch blinked to life as she stepped outside into the crisp morning air of Redwood Hills, a tech neighborhood designed for young professionals like her. The sidewalks were smooth, the air clean, and the streets lined with smart streetlights and camera-equipped intersections. It was the kind of place where danger seemed distant and unlikely. Emily waved to the occasional dog walker or cyclist she passed. Her fitness app recorded each stride, her heart rate climbing steadily as she approached her favorite stretch of the trailer winding path near an unfinished biking lane, bordered by tall trees that offered both shade and silence. She loved that part. It felt like stepping out of the city without ever leaving it. Her playlist, a mix of motivational beats and chill tracks, played softly through her wireless earbuds. The sun had just begun to rise, casting golden streaks through the branches above. As she reached the edge of the paved route and continued onto the gravel path, a construction zone loomed ahead. It had been closed off for weeks, marked by temporary fences and warning tape, but joggers often ducked around the barriers for an uninterrupted run. Emily had done it before, many times. At 6:37 a.m., her fitness app logged her last detected location just a few steps into the restricted zone. After that, nothing. No movement, no pulse rate, no signal. It was as if she'd vanished into thin air. Her smartwatch synced to her phone at home, sent one final ping to the cloud before going silent. In that brief moment, a single shoe left behind in the soft dirt near a disturbed patch of ground would become the only clue to something terrible. The neighborhood cameras that had followed her from her apartment building to the trailhead lost sight of her after she passed the last street lamp behind her. The streets remained quiet. There was no scream, no commotion, no witness. When she didn't show up for her 9 a.m. virtual meeting, her co-workers didn't panic. Emily was rarely late, but it was possible her internet had gone down or she'd overslept. By noon, concern turned to unease. Her apartment was checked, her car was still parked, and her phone remained untouched on the nightstand, still charging. The coffee cup on her desk was half full, the screen still glowing from her last keystroke. Something had happened, but no one could yet say what. The perfect safety bubble of Redwood Hills had burst, and behind its smart systems and sunny sidewalks, something dark had slipped through unnoticed. The search for Emily Kahn intensified quickly once it became clear she hadn't just missed a meeting or taken a spontaneous day off. By late afternoon, her friends and co-workers had reported her missing, and Redwood Hills police initiated a formal investigation. They began by retracing her usual jogging route using the data from her synced fitness tracker. The GPS logs showed a clean path until 6:37 a.m., when the signal stopped abruptly near a partially developed bike trail. Officers headed straight to that location. The area was quiet, surrounded by half-built fences and signs warning of construction, but no workers were on site. Among the fallen leaves and loose gravel, one detective noticed something glinting faintly in the dirt. It was a single white wireless earbud, dust-covered but intact. Nearby, a thin strip of reflective tape flapped lightly in the morning breeze, snagged on a splintered wooden stake. There were no tire marks, no visible footprints, just a subtle indentation in the soil as if someone had knelt or dragged something heavy through it. Canine units were brought in, and within hours, they picked up Emily's scent. The trail led a short distance before cutting off entirely near the construction fence. A few feet beyond that, the ground had been recently disturbed, but not in a way that looked obvious to the casual observer. It wasn't a hole, just an area where the dirt was looser than the rest. The dogs circled, pawed, and whimpered, but nothing surfaced. Investigators marked the spot and collected soil samples, unsure if they were looking at a clue or just coincidence. At the same time, detectives reviewed neighborhood surveillance footage. Redwood Hills had one of the highest densities of smart cameras per square mile, all tied to a central network. Emily's path was easy to trace until she passed the last lamppost, at which point the feed went dark. Still, one camera caught something at 6:31 a.m. The silver utility van had pulled onto the sidewalk near the construction entrance. It remained there for just over a minute before disappearing down a side road. The van had no license plate visible in the footage, but its faded logo had one readable fragment. The letters Go. The image was grainy, and the frame was partially obstructed by a tree, but it was enough to raise suspicions. Emily had no reason to interact with a utility van, especially in a no-service zone. Investigators checked city work schedules. No authorized vehicles had been dispatched to that area that morning. Media outlets began to circulate the story, branding it the disappearance of Google Girl due to Emily's nickname at work. Speculation grew quickly, but police kept many details confidential, including the van footage and the discovery of the earbud to the public. it was a missing person case. But for investigators, it was beginning to look like something much worse: an abduction in broad daylight. Possibly premeditated, carried out within minutes. Something had gone terribly wrong, and the tiny details left behind would soon reveal a terrifying truth. As investigators combed through the available digital trails, they turned their attention to data that couldn't be faked: metadata. The time-stamped movements of devices, streetlight cameras, and even garbage truck GPS routes became vital pieces of the puzzle. Among the most promising leads was the short footage of the silver van with the partial Go logo. Analysts enhanced the footage, and with some effort, managed to isolate a clearer shot of the vehicle. The side panel revealed more than initially seen. Go logo could now be read, followed by blurred letters. A quick search narrowed it down to a company called Jogging, a courier service specializing in private no-signature required deliveries. Jogging was not a well-known brand, but their presence in the Redwood Hills area was frequent. Their drivers operated discreetly, often working odd hours to meet tight deadlines. Police subpoenaed delivery logs for that morning and discovered one driver assigned multiple overlapping drop-offs within the same 2-mile radius that included the construction site. His name was Ross Hale. His record raised eyebrows immediately. While he had no current charges, he'd been questioned in the past for harassment and stalking, although none of the cases had moved forward due to lack of evidence. Digging deeper, investigators discovered that Ross had submitted a report just days earlier, claiming one of his handheld scanning devices had been lost or stolen. These scanners weren't just for tracking packages, they could also send out signals that interfered with wireless connections. In the wrong hands, one could potentially block Bluetooth devices, including fitness trackers and earbuds. It was a strange detail, but in light of the sudden loss of signal from Emily's watch and earbuds, it became a chilling possibility. Surveillance analysis revealed something else. Ross's van had been captured on traffic cameras in the early morning hours that day, not only near the construction site but also idling a few blocks away from Emily's apartment building around 6:15 a.m. His delivery log, however, showed no assigned stops in that area at that time. It was clear he had been circling before, parking briefly at the site where Emily disappeared. Detectives now had a pattern: unauthorized presence near the victim's apartment, brief idling at a construction site, a missing scanner capable of jamming signals, and a history of questionable behavior. But they needed more than suspicion. They pulled Ross's delivery records from previous weeks and discovered a troubling pattern. His routes had slowly shifted over the past month too, consistently passed through the trail Emily used for jogging. Whether by coincidence or design, Ross had access, opportunity, and a growing digital trail that contradicted his work logs. Investigators quietly placed Ross under surveillance while they worked to obtain a warrant for his vehicle and home. If he was responsible, they were closing in. The pieces were lining up in a way that suggested Emily's abduction wasn't random. It was targeted, pre-planned, and executed with chilling precision. Detectives monitored Ross Hale for several days, studying his movements and habits. He seemed calm, almost too calm for someone who was being closely watched. He stuck to his delivery route, clocked in and out on time, and never once deviated from his assigned stops. But surveillance teams noticed something peculiar. Ross often slowed down when passing the construction site where Emily's signal last disappeared. He never stopped, but his eyes lingered in the rearview mirror as if checking for something. Investigators believed he was watching the search unfold, trying to gauge how close the authorities were to finding out what had happened. To build their case, police planted a decoy package on Ross's route, designed to appear like a routine delivery. Inside was a motion-triggered sensor that would silently alert the team when moved. Ross picked it up without hesitation, loading it into his van. As soon as he touched the package, the alert triggered, confirming he was handling packages that didn't belong on his official manifest. It gave investigators the evidence they needed to execute a search warrant. They descended on Ross's home in the early hours of the morning, quietly surrounding the property before knocking on the door. Ross didn't resist. He seemed surprised but not alarmed, offering vague explanations about system errors and delivery mix-ups. But inside the van, detectives made their first major discovery. Buried beneath a pile of old uniforms and loose packaging tape was the missing handheld scanner Ross had claimed was stolen. It still worked, and tests confirmed it could jam signals from nearby smart devices. That alone wasn't enough for a conviction. Investigators turned to the van's onboard dashcam, hoping it might hold more. Ross had tried to delete the files, but what he didn't realize was that the footage automatically synced to a secure cloud every time the vehicle connected to Wi-Fi, something it had done just hours after Emily's disappearance. While parked near his home, the footage was damning. At 6:32 a.m. on the morning Emily vanished, the camera showed her jogging toward the construction zone. The van appeared ahead of her. Ross stepped out, walked off screen, and moments later Emily was seen hesitating before the screen went dark. The final seconds captured a muffled sound, followed by the van doors sliding shut. Then nothing. Inside Ross's garage, investigators found more. A storage bin held items he had no reason to possess: an extra pair of neon green running shoes, a headband, and a phone case that matched Emily's brand. Forensics confirmed the presence of her DNA. There was no longer any doubt. Ross was arrested the same day and charged with kidnapping and murder. He remained mostly silent during questioning, offering no confession, no remorse. The evidence was overwhelming, and the community that once believed in the safety of their smart, quiet neighborhood was left shattered. The killer had hidden in plain sight, blending in under the mask of a delivery uniform, using technology not to protect but to prey. Ross Hale's arrest sent shockwaves through Redwood Hills and beyond. The man who had once been seen as just another delivery driver turned out to be the predator hiding in the most ordinary disguise. In the days that followed, the details of the case began to surface in court documents and news reports. The community, once built on the promise of safety through smart technology and connectivity, was forced to confront the truth. No system was foolproof, and even the most advanced surveillance couldn't prevent the darkest intentions. Forensic experts dug deeper into the evidence recovered from Ross's home and van. Soil samples from his tires matched a disturbed patch of dirt where Emily's scent had last been traced. More devastatingly, traces of Emily's blood were found on the edge of the van's cargo area, along with fibers from her running clothes. Prosecutors built a timeline that showed Ross had deliberately altered his delivery route over the span of a month, slowly narrowing the window of opportunity, observing Emily's habits, and preparing for the exact moment he would strike. It was not a crime of impulse. It was methodical, planned, and deeply calculated. During the trial, Ross remained silent. He entered a guilty plea to avoid the death penalty, but never offered an explanation or apology. His silence only deepened the horror, as Emily's family and the public were left to imagine the final moments of a woman who had simply gone out for a morning run. The courtroom was filled with friends, co-workers, and even strangers who had followed her story. Each morning, not just her death, but the fear it spread through a community that once felt invincible. Emily's parents, devastated but determined, chose to channel their grief into action. They founded Project Neon, a non-profit organization focused on runner safety. The name came from Emily's bright green shoes, a symbol of her spirit and visibility. The project partnered with tech companies to develop a new app that combined real-time GPS tracking, motion alerts, and emergency response features. If a user stopped moving unexpectedly, or if their device signal was disrupted, the app would instantly notify designated contacts and authorities. It was designed to prevent another tragedy like Emily's from ever happening again. In Redwood Hills, changes came quickly. The city installed better lighting along jogging routes, added live-stream surveillance in low-visibility areas, and enforced strict protocols for third-party service vehicles. Gologix, the delivery company linked to Ross, faced numerous lawsuits and ultimately shut down. Their hiring process and oversight failures were exposed, making them a national example of corporate negligence. Emily Kahn became more than just a name and a headline. Her story sparked a movement, one that highlighted the vulnerability of even the most seemingly protected spaces. Her legacy lived on in every alert sent from the Project Neon app, in every runner who chose to jog with one more layer of safety, and in every person who refused to believe that danger only lurked in shadows. Sometimes, it wore a name tag, smiled politely, and waited for the perfect moment to strike.